Hi friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going back to the basics as I want to talk to you about some of my most recent reads. These are some books I've read this summer and I'm gonna talk about them. And let's do it chronologically. So, at the start of July, I think. My intention was to read this in June, but it ended up being July. But at the start of July, as I went away on my holiday to Spain, I read 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I really enjoyed this one. It was great. This is a second chance romance about Eva and Shane. And we're following their story both in the present timeline, but we're also getting glimpses back to when they first met, which was when they were like 15, 17, something like that. Both are authors. Eva writes erotica about vampires, and Shane is an award-winning novelist. And yeah, we're following their story, and honestly, this is such a beautiful book. I really like this one. I loved the characters, I loved the banter, I loved the chemistry between the characters. I thought that was great. I really enjoyed the story as well, and just like it clicked somehow. Their relationship made sense, their conversations made sense. I was never really annoyed by anything that any of the characters did. I think I've seen people cry when reading this one. I didn't cry, I didn't find it that sad. It's definitely a bit of a tragic story in some ways, but it's not bawling my eyes out sad. I was even tabbing some quotes when I was reading this one, so let me share a few. We have when Shane is talking to a student that he's helping out, he says, "Listen, caring about things don't make you soft, it makes you alive." I love that one. I love that one. Shane had the best lines in this book. I also love this one. These are Shane's thoughts about a conversation he's having with Eva, and he thinks her words were a verbal blush. Oh my god, that's so cute. That's so cute. I really adore this one, and I ended up giving it a 5-star. Was it like a stellar, complete 5-star? No, not really. But it was such a strong 4-star, like higher than 4.75, that I'm just like, let's just round it up to 5. It's beautiful. I definitely plan on reading more by Tia Williams in the future, and I highly recommend this one to everyone actually. I thought the writing was wonderful. The next book I read during my holiday was The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, and with that I have finally completed Mistborn Era 1. So this is the third book in the Mistborn Era 1 series. I had such mixed feelings about this. I was honestly quite bored with it throughout the majority of it. And I can't really say much about it because it's gonna be spoilers. But basically the characters we are following in this book, the two main characters I would say, they are quite boring. I like them, I understand why they are the way they are, why they are so serious, but it's boring, it doesn't do much. The first book in the series, The Final Empire, is just so much fun. It's fun, it's exciting, it's thrilling, it has cool and charismatic characters, and these characters that we are following are not as charismatic, or they are toned down because they need to be for the roles that they have in the world and in this universe. It makes it like not fun, not exciting. So like when I was reading this at first, it took me some time to get into it, like I would say like half the book or something. And I was honestly considering giving it a 3-star. But then I got to the last, what could it be, like 100 pages or something, and oh boy, like the ending of this book and the ending of this trilogy, so good. So good. Made me emotional, made me feel a lot of things I didn't expect to feel. I thought the ending was brilliant in so many ways. Because the ending was so good, I still ended up rating this one 4 stars. Is it my favorite in the trilogy? No, that's the first one. The way things wrapped up was just so cool. Honestly, like I loved how it wrapped up. The next book I read while on vacation was A Love Like the Sun by Riz M. Nielsen. This is a friends to lovers story, so it's another romance, contemporary romance. We are following Lania and Isaac. They have been best friends since childhood, and Isaac is some sort of artsy influencer. He has money, he is a celebrity, he has an online following, and Lania has a business together with her mom where they are selling like body butters and hair oils and things that they make. In order to help Lania and her mother out with their business, he pretends to date Lania So they sort of fake date, but soon of course those fake dates will turn into something else. It was a very, very quick read. There's a few things in it that doesn't really make sense to me, but I did enjoy it. This book also shines a light on chronically ill characters and also women being mistreated or not being diagnosed or just hearing like, oh, you're just being fatigued, or oh, it's not that dangerous, when they go and seek help from a medical professional. It made a lot of good points with that, which is sort of like a subplot to the story. It's a 3.5. I think on Goodreads I rounded it up to 4, but in my heart it's more like a 3.5 star. Next up, I actually got through a TBR vet, and that is Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Lessons from the Crematory by Caitlin Doughty. This has been on my shelves since I started book 2, basically. This is a memoir/essay collection written by a mortician who worked in a crematory, and it's about Caitlin's experiences and thoughts while doing that. Yeah, at first I thought it was quite slow. This is marketed as being quite funny. Many of the blurbs on it says that it's funny, or like demonically funny, wicked, upbeat, morbidly funny, things like that. Perhaps I don't share Caitlin Doughty's humor, so perhaps that's why I didn't really find the book that funny. I could see she was trying to make jokes and like talk about these topics such as death and funerals and similar in a very casual way and like matter-of-fact way and joking way occasionally. I didn't find it haha funny, if that makes sense. But as I continued to read it, I started to enjoy it more and more, and I am interested to read her other writings as well. I think she has another one that talks a bit more about various death and burial rituals across the world. I actually ended up giving this one 4 stars, even though I had a bit of a rough start with this one, and yeah, it's exactly as it's marketed as, a memoir written by a mortician. Next up, I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. And let me tell you that vampires are back. I love this one. I did not expect to get as obsessed with this book as I did, but oh my god, it was amazing. It was so good, like honestly. This is a vampire story. It's about a human. She is named Oraya, and she lives in this vampire world. She's basically adopted by the vampire king, or the ruler of the realm or something like that. But because she is a human in a vampire world, she is basically prey. So she has been trained to look after herself, to be able to fight, so that she doesn't end up being prey to the vampires that are all around her and want to kill her. She enters this very deadly tournament called the Keyari, and the winner of that tournament gets a wish granted by the goddess of death. And Oraya is entering to win this tournament so that she can make a wish and make sure that she will never be seen as prey again. In this tournament, a bunch of other interesting characters have entered as well. One of them is Rain. Let me know how you say that, because I really don't know. But he is a oh so gorgeous, oh so charismatic and oh so strong vampire, also fighting in this deadly tournament, and they sort of become allies. And I love him. I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was great. Like, the way he talks, or the way he's written, I guess, but like the things he say, how he says them, he has so much like swagger, and I loved him. He does this thing where he says, "That's my girl," every time Oraya does anything bratty or is a bit like mean or threatens him or something, and I love that. They form an alliance during this tournament, and there's a lot of things going on in the realm as well amongst the vampires, because there are different vampire kingdoms and vampire species fighting each other and yada yada yada. It's cool. The pacing was impeccable. Like, I have no complaints about the pacing actually, because the tournament is divided into like 5 different parts, or like 5 different competitions, and there's a total of I think like 6 or 7 parts in this book, and it just flows so well. We get such a good pace of action, backstory, character development, flirty fun moments. It's so solid. No complaints about the pacing at all throughout the entirety of the book. It all made so much sense. It was just fun. It had all the fun bits of a proper vampire book. It had the bloody bits, the gory bits, the sexy bits, the fun bits, the flirty bits, the sad bits, the tortured bits, like it's got it all. It's got it all, and I'm so glad that vampires are back in this way. I am definitely reading the sequel. I'm definitely picking up other things written by this author, like, oh my god. This might be my favorite book of the year so far. It's definitely up there. I love this book. This book was good. Next up, I actually listened to a book called A Magical Girl Retires by Park Sol-yeon. This one is a shorter novella. It has a really gorgeous cover, so I listened to it for the Olympics-a-thon. And the thing with this book is, I barely understand what this book is about, to be honest. I found it quite confusing, a bit all over the place. I felt like this book was trying too hard to do everything in a very short amount of pages. It's about this 29-year-old girl thinking about taking her life, but then she sort of learns that she is a magical girl and that she has superpowers, but she haven't really figured out those superpowers yet. But she joins this crew of magical girls and they sort of fight climate change and terrorists, and like there's a bunch of things going on and things are revealed and back and forth, and like it handles quite heavy and difficult topics such as like how women are treated, suicide, climate change, quite major topics I would say, and it's very on the nose about it. It doesn't really have time and space to do it more subtly or more like building up to it. It's very like, oh yeah, and this is because of climate change, and oh yeah, this is because of sexism. So it's very like that, and I feel like this book is trying too hard and too much, and I was so confused when listening to it. I didn't pay much attention to it at all actually, so I ended up giving it 2 stars. Not my cup of tea, sorry. I then read One Piece, the first 3 volumes actually. So there are these omnibus editions that gathers 3 volumes in like one book, and my library has them, so I borrowed that one and read it, and I enjoyed it. I have seen the live action show twice actually, and I love the live action show. So I do know quite a bit about the arc that the story starts with, the East Blue arc, and all the characters we are going to meet and the villains and things like that. So perhaps I wasn't really that surprised by much going on in these first 3 volumes, but I really did enjoy comparing it to the live show. I thought that was fun to think about, oh, what's different, what's not, what did they change for the show, and so on. I don't know yet if I prefer the show or the book. What I do know is that I'm definitely excited to continue with this manga series. I have already put a hold on the next 2 omnibus editions, and I will pick them up soon. So I do plan on continuing my One Piece and manga journey. This is my first time reading manga physically. I've read it online previously, but this is my first time reading it physically. It was definitely a bit of a learning curve for the first few chapters, but then you got into it quite quickly. And it's fun. If you don't know, One Piece is a Japanese manga. It's an adventure and it's fantasy and it's about pirates. And if you know me, you know I love me some pirates. So it's basically about this very energetic and friendly and optimistic guy named Luffy, and he goes on a quest to become the king of pirates and find the One Piece, which is like a treasure that's been hidden. And in order to find the One Piece and become king of the pirates, he needs a crew. So it's sort of the first arc of the story is about him gathering his crew. They are all a bunch of like, I want to say misfits, not really, but they are people from all across the world with different dreams and goals, aspirations, purposes, backstories, all of that. And they are all coming together and being convinced by Luffy to join his crew, and they are beautiful characters, they really are. It's also a bit like Monster of the Week-esque with a new villain, I think, almost every new volume or something like that, which is a lot of fun. So I've already read about Buggy the Clown, and I think I'm now at the Kuro and the Black Cat Pirate storyline. I ended up giving this first set of 3 books 3 stars. It's like a 3.5, a high 3, but once again, I'm not really surprised by anything. I know most of the story, so perhaps I wasn't that emotionally invested yet, but I'm certain that I can become very invested in the future. Another audiobook I listened to was What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami, and this one I listened to when I went out for runs. So that's a bit meta, right? This is another short audiobook, around 4 or 5 hours, and it's basically a memoir / essay collection again, written by Murakami, about his relationship to running, why he started to run, why he runs, how he runs, his sort of philosophy about running, and also how that relates to his work and his relationships and like his life as an author and what he writes and so on. I am running a race later now in August, it's getting really close. And I have this like hate-love, mostly hate, relationship with running, but I still try to push myself to do it. I do feel like I got some great insights from listening to Murakami discuss running. I also didn't know much about Murakami. I read one book of his years ago. It was actually very interesting to hear more about his life. And I'm actually very intrigued now to read more of Murakami's novels. So yeah, I do recommend this one. I think it was a great memoir, and definitely, whether you're a runner or not, but I guess especially if you are into running or are considering to take up running, I think this could be a good read. I liked it. It was a solid audiobook. 4 stars from me. And now for the latest book I completed just the other day. That one is Factfulness by Hans Rosling. This is a Swedish book, but I believe it's been translated now to multiple languages, honestly. 10 explanations to why we are wrong about the world and why things are better than you might think. This is a very, I don't want to say scientific, but very like straight to the point, no bullshit type of book that relies a lot on statistics, numbers, facts, and it explains why we shouldn't have such a negative outlook on the world and on everything that's going on. Note that this might be a tad bit dated. I think this was released in 2018. A lot has changed since 2020, okay? We've lived through a pandemic, there's wars going on, like there's a lot that has happened in the last 4 years. And I would love actually a bonus chapter or something additional to this and read these authors' thoughts on what has been going on for the last 4 years. That might be a bit tricky though, since the main author, Hans Rosling, unfortunately passed away while writing this book, but I think his children are carrying on the legacy. So maybe there is something out there, I don't really know. It gives a lot of insights regarding how you should consider stats, how you should handle the news, how you should consider bad news and things. Hans Rosling was a medical professional focusing on international health, so a lot of the examples in this book are about the fear we have for overpopulation of the earth and why that's not really a fear anymore, why it shouldn't be a fear, and he really tries to put it down to the numbers, why we're not really gonna be overpopulated for a long time now. And there are like graphs in this one. It actually starts off with a quiz where you can answer with what you think is the status of the world, and he basically spends the rest of the book proving you wrong and saying that nah, most likely you went for the most negative option in this multiple choice question, but actually we're at the best possible option for this one and similar. So I did enjoy it. There's also a quote here I really like that I want to read for you. I'll try and translate it. You cannot understand the world without numbers, and you cannot understand it with only numbers. I really like that. As someone who works a lot with numbers, I really like that. So yeah, a lot about statistics and facts, but also just like being observant, being open-minded and thinking about, why might these people act different than us? Why might this be different? 4 stars to this one, very solid non-fiction read. And that's it. Those are the books I've read this summer so far. I'm currently in the midst of multiple other books and I will go on another vacation, so hoping to read some more books during that one. I am quite happy with this stack actually. This one looks fairly solid to me. We do have like 2 5 stars, multiple 4 stars. I've had a really good reading summer, so that is amazing. Please let me know if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please take care and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!
You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes